The deep dawn arrives in the Congo Rainforest, not with sunlight, but with a humid, heavy silence clinging to the forest floor. The air hangs thick and still, tasting of moisture and the deep, earthy scent of ancient, fertile ground. High above, where the first light breaks, the emergent trees stand sentinel, their crowns blazing momentarily in a brief, golden contact with the sun. A single, insistent ray of sun manages to slice through the thick layers, a shimmering, vertical spear piercing the darkness below. The forest begins to warm. The temperature differential causes a faint, ephemeral mist to rise from the damp surfaces of large, waxy leaves. Tiny creatures begin their silent work. A leaf-cutter insect begins its precise, unstoppable journey, clipping a perfect semicircle of foliage. Water, captured high in the branches during the cool night, begins its slow descent, gathering into heavier drops. Down on the forest floor, the roots of the large trees are immense, silent anchors, gripping the earth in a complex, braided network. Deep in the sub-canopy, a cluster of orchids, brilliant in color, unfurl their petals, fueled by the humidity and the faint, filtered light. The air thickens with the smell of sweet, decomposing biomass, the forest recycling itself in a slow, continuous breath. The sun reaches its zenith. Though unseen, its heat drives the moisture up, creating a vast, invisible river of rising vapor. The light-filtering leaves of the sub-canopy are constantly repositioning, tiny adjustments made to maximize the precious, diffuse sunlight. The forest begins to sing. The constant, high-pitched whir of millions of insects creates a shimmering wall of ambient noise. A sudden, powerful rush of wind tears through the upper canopy, a momentary break in the stillness, sounding like rushing rapids. The rhythmic drip, drip, drip from the high canopy transforms into a quicker, more frequent percussion on the ground. The humidity causes heavy, ripe pods to swell. Stored tension reaches its peak, and a plant mechanism is triggered. A massive, ancient liana, thick as a human torso, creaks under the constant strain of its weight and the day's heat expansion. The ground heat intensifies. Water deep in the soil is sucked up by the trees, climbing hundreds of feet against gravity in an invisible struggle. A patch of blue sky, glimpsed through a temporary gap in the leaves, looks impossibly vivid, a sudden flash of the outside world. The forest floor, the layer of decomposition, steams gently. Life here is dark, slow, and focused on the breaking down of the past. A large, smooth rock, warm from the filtered sun, radiates heat outward, creating a small, localized pocket of dry air. The immense pressure of the layered environment is palpable, a sense of crushing, humid weight pushing down onto every surface. Suddenly, the chorus of insects goes silent. A brief, unsettling lull in the noise suggests a shadow or a disturbance has passed through. The massive trunks of the tallest trees stand like pillars in a hidden cathedral, silent and indifferent to the ephemeral changes around them. Tiny, fragile vines, thin as thread, twist upward, urgently seeking any vertical surface to lift them towards the unreachable light. The atmosphere saturates completely. The sky, viewed through the smallest gaps, turns a bruised, heavy grey-purple. A massive thunderclap detonates directly above the canopy, the sound muffled but profound, shaking the air with its force. The first enormous, scattered drops hit the ground with the force of small stones, kicking up tiny plumes of dust and dirt. A heavy, continuous tropical downpour begins. The sound is an immediate, deafening roar, drowning out all other noise. The water accelerates downward, cascading in thick sheets off the smooth, sloping surfaces of the massive leaves. The ground quickly floods. The dark soil turns to thick, muddy sludge, and small streams rapidly form, carving temporary channels. The rain, now falling with less force, cleanses the leaves, washing away dust and pollen and revealing their brilliant, hidden colors. The trunks of the trees become conduits, funneling gallons of rainwater down their rough, channeled bark to the demanding roots below. A flash of brilliance, tiny, iridescent feathers on a bird, briefly sheltered, catch the faint light, transforming the grey atmosphere. The forest releases the tension of the heat. The temperature drops sharply, and the atmosphere becomes cool, fresh, and deeply invigorating. The last drops fall. The sound of the torrential rain immediately gives way to a sound of 100,000 liquid sizzles and trickles. The air, now saturated but cool, seems to amplify the remaining light, bathing the forest in a sudden, impossible emerald glow. Minute creatures, washed from their perches, scramble across the wet surface of the leaves, seeking their original, familiar shelters. The massive trunks, glistening with moisture, look almost black against the suddenly intense green of the surrounding plant life. The small, temporary streams slow their rush. The muddy water clears slightly, showing reflections of the renewed foliage above. A low, persistent hum begins again, rising from the undergrowth, the returning, grateful chorus of insects. The final light of the evening is golden orange, casting long, peaceful shadows through the clean, clear air. The scent of the air changes one last time, replacing the smell of decay with a sharp, clean fragrance of ozone and wet stone. Fungi, awakened by the deluge, seem to swell instantly, absorbing the vast quantities of moisture now available. The towering sub-canopy relaxes its guard. With the sun low, the desperate scramble for light eases into a nocturnal stillness. A cluster of night-blooming flowers, closed all day, slowly begin to uncurl their pale petals, ready for the dark. The dense, humid darkness returns, consuming the light from the forest floor up, layer by layer, until only the highest trees remain visible. The only constant, persistent sound is the deep, slow, steady pulse of the great river nearby, a geological drum in the night. The vast, sprawling canopy becomes a massive, living roof, trapping the accumulated warmth and moisture, preparing for the next day's cycle. The Congo Rainforest rests, a complex, silent, powerful organism, the emerald heartbeat of the world, cycling onward through the darkness.